The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Tonight on The Agenda.
We've never had this demographic shift. I mean, you can't open the newspaper or turn on the radio without hearing about our aging demographic. That's fine, but we need to move to some solutions, and certainly our healthcare system isn't going to be the backbone, and it's already not.
More people, of course, are living longer, many with better quality of life. Even still, aging parents often require support and care they've never needed before. Laura Tamblyn Watts is president and CEO of CanAge, a national seniors advocacy organization. She's got a new book out aimed at improving communications when the roles reverse, when the adult children suddenly find themselves the informal caregivers of their older parents. The book is called Let's Talk About Aging Parents, a real-life guide to solving problems with 27 essential conversations. Laura Tamblyn Watts also lectures at the University of Toronto's Factor Inwentosh Faculty of Social Work, and she joins us now. Great to have you back here at TVO.
Always great to be on the show.
Is there something particularly timely about why you wanted to write this book now?
All of the time, in every circumstance, these days, we're talking about aging parents, but we're talking about it and pulling our hair out. What we haven't actually had is ways to have a kitchen table conversation and still be liking each other enough to have dinner at the table afterwards. And that is what prompted it.
Every poll I've ever seen says people want to live at home in familiar surroundings for as long as they can. I think we also know that the healthcare system, such as it is, home care, supportive care, PSWs, all that, it cannot handle that right now. So how's this going to work exactly?
We've never had this demographic shift. I mean, you can't open the newspaper or turn on the radio without hearing about our aging demographic. That's fine, but we need to move to some solutions, and certainly our healthcare system isn't going to be the backbone, and it's already not, but that's going to be under even greater pressure. So what we're going to see is families, and I define that in the broadest possible terms, supporters, people who are part of our close-knit community, they're going to have to lean in, and they're not just leaning in by providing some emotional support or even a little bit of tech support. It's actually financial. It's really health care in a heavy type of care environment. And it's also trying to think about preventive ways to stop those triggering events like falls from happening.
Well, let me follow up on that. Do you think, based on your experiences with lots of people who are dealing with this, are we ready for the complexity of care to come?
Oh, not even beginning to be ready for it. But what families are saying is they are having this thrust upon them. And because we're having a different type of care relationship and the number of adult children, and again, I use that term really very broadly, used to be, you'd have 8 kids and 2 parents, and you could kind of divide it up. And if someone didn't have a good relationship, maybe that one kid doesn't involve themselves. What we call our caregiver burden has switched. And my experience, which I have sort of 6 aging parents in my life, is not an unusual one because there's different marriages and there's different systems and fewer children. And so that means we need to be really creative for how we actually help to support our aging parents and not assume that our healthcare system is going to do it for us.
You used a word there, though, the caregiver burden. We don't, I know we don't like to think of it as a burden to take care of our parents as they age, because after all, they took care of us when we were just wee little ones growing up. But is it a burden?
Look, it is. I mean, it's hard in the same way that actually having young children is a burden. It doesn't mean it's not also a joy.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it's not purposeful and meaningful. It doesn't even mean that it's not something you'd want to sign up for. It's really hard. And it's getting harder because we have fewer and fewer resources. Unless you're truly rich, getting full-time care at the home, between $100,000 and $300,000 a year. That's just not the basis for most people.
People don't believe that. I know, because I've had this conversation with a lot of people lately. And when you find out 6 big figures is what it costs to make this happen, People aren't ready for this, are they?
They're really not ready for it. And they're not ready for the fact that options are very limited as well. And so they think, well, I'll just go to long-term care. Well, about 43,000 people in Ontario are on the waiting list. And I think that's an underestimation as of this year. And the degree of frailty that we have even in our retirement homes, which we designed to be places of active living, average age is 86 in a retirement home, and at least 40% of a diagnosis of dementia. And if that's a diagnosis, there's lots more than that there.
So they say it's active living, but there's a lot of inactive living going on in those settings.
It's a very frail environment, generally.
Right. Let's do an excerpt from the book here. Sheldon, if you would, bring this up and I'll read along for those listening on podcast. Let's set some expectations at the very beginning. People don't change much. Even when it comes to everyday or emergency care for your aging parent, if your macho brother was always too busy to help around the house, chances are he's not going to be volunteering to scrub your mom's kitchen every day. Some folks may surprise you, though, so starting off by including everyone in this conversation can really help. Okay, how do we start here? Somebody, I presume, if you've got multiple siblings or cousins or however you're doing it, someone's got to take the lead, right? Is that how it starts?
Usually someone takes the lead unless nobody takes the lead. And that actually happens too. So let's not presume the family is really well coordinated. Let's not assume that all the relationships are loving and wonderful, because most families, there's complexity to them. So this book kind of calls a spade a spade. Who has mental health issues? Who's living in Vancouver and only comes for every other Christmas? Who's actually doing the care at home, but perhaps is struggling with drug and alcohol addictions and has never actually had a job, but they're the ones who've at home because they're not that busy, because they're not that employed. Real families are complicated. Usually there's somebody that takes the lead, or something happens and then they all get called together to try to figure out how to problem solve it.
And is there invariably a disproportionate burden on one sibling versus another?
There often is. I mean, it's, we give these archetypes to it as well. So it's, the good school teacher, daughter is often the one, or, the financial manager son. We give these, archetypes to it. And sometimes they exist for a reason. There's something to that. It's true that there is generally more involvement by women than men. Having said that, that's starting to switch around a little bit. It's not quite as stereotypical as it used to be. And some of that is because technology is starting to play an interesting role. And the book starts talking about, what can you do to actually use tech in a positive way? And for financial management and support, so much of it can be done online now or on an app. And so you don't necessarily have to be at the house or at the bedside as much to provide some forms of support.
Let me give you, for instance, though, if you've got, let's say, multiple children in the case, 3 or 4 kids, and they've got parents who are ailing and need help, and there's one kid who's just irresponsible and really has never been much of a help along the way. Is it in your interest, is it in your better interest to try to convince that reprobate to, pull up his socks and chip in, or is it better to write him off and say, you know what, we can't rely on them, let's just forget it and we'll do it ourselves?
Well, as a lawyer, I don't teach in the faculty of law for a reason. I teach in the faculty of social work, because most of these issues are people problems. They're not really legal or financial problems. I think it's important to really understand who people are and be okay with that. If your brother's got drug and alcohol addictions or has always been the one that's been living on mom's dime, that's not going to change. So understand who they are and what they need and what their expectations are. And again, try to understand that the personality types are pretty baked in by this time. I wrote this book for people 35 to 75 because I've got folks who are caregivers in their mid-70s of their 102-year-old parents.
Oof. How does that work?
Well, we used to be a sandwich generation. Now we're a club sandwich generation.
Because they've got grandchildren, too.
They've got great-grandchildren in some cases. And so we really see these care relationships and these interrelationships changing. But what we haven't really had is a way to stop that kind of gloss over what should be a family and what should happen, to get into actually some of those real conversations and grasp, okay, who's really going to be in a good place to do what? Let's not set people up for a lack of success. So the reprobate may be funny.
Oh.
And so maybe the thing that they contribute is some funny time over a cup of coffee with mom. And it really, besides, it was always her good son in her heart, even though just he was misunderstood by everybody else, right? So maybe he's the one that does the puzzles and the crossword puzzles with her. And that social connection, that's important too.
Okay, let me circle back to that club sandwich line, because we're used to hearing about the sandwich generation where, if you're in the middle, you're dealing with older parents and still with your own kids. But the club sandwich has got multiple levels. So you're potentially talking about 70-year-old parents who are dealing with their parents and their own children and their own grandchildren.
Yes.
That's a lot to juggle.
It's a lot to juggle. Yeah. And these relationships are iterative too. So it's often who needs help when. And sometimes you have a triggering event and then you're going to need help forever on. And that's very true if you have a fall and break a hip, or there's a diagnosis of dementia, something like that, or a cancer diagnosis that's really changed health. But it doesn't mean that the other person in that relationship has changed. They may want you to be active and healthy in golf. And so we have to think about what needs to support a person when. What we often see is that the spouse of a person who needs help ends up having a medical crisis of their own because the I can do it myself, or I don't want to confront it, or I don't want to start asking for roles to change can lead to physical and emotional breakdown.
Let me get your advice on how devious we're allowed to be. For example, let's say mom is 90 and she still wants to drive.
Yes.
And that scares the hell out of you to let mom out there on the roads. But legally, she still has her driver's license. Should you lie about, oh, sorry, the car's not working today? Should you hide her keys? Should you take the battery out of the key? How much of this should you do?
So in the book, I do a couple of different things. I sort of help you landscape what your situation is going to be like, and with humor. It's important to know that the book is funny on purpose because some of the things that we do are also funny, and you kind of have to have a bit of a laugh as you're going through some of these challenging situations. So I often rank the types of conversations. If your dad is like this, try this approach. If your dad is like this, try this approach. And then there's usually the approach called the nuclear option. If you do this, it might blow up your relationship, but if you really need to. And driving is one of those issues where we have a lot of strategies. I've had alternators taken out. I've had the car that needs to go to the shop. The key doesn't quite fit in the lock anymore. Someone's going to borrow the car. I mean, there's many different ways that you can do modification to let people get comfortable with other forms of transportation. How you approach it depends on your own opinions and ethics and families. But what I would say is most people don't want to cause harm. And so the book has a lot of harm reduction strategies in it.
When you say you've had, does that mean you have employed these strategies in your own family dynamic?
I can neither confirm nor deny that that's the case.
Well, I think I know what that means. Okay, but in case they're watching, you don't want to fess up that you've done this.
We were the primary supporters for several sets of grandparents and a great aunt and great uncle. And my mom was my age, 52, when she retired from teaching. Not really retired. She stopped to become a full-time caregiver to these 6 individual older adults, and driving was certainly one of those issues. Now, if you're in an urban center, things like Uber are fantastic because they don't make a person feel dependent, and assuming they've got money and assuming that that's a comfortable thing. But the old taxi cab style was complicated when you had to manage cash and worried about it, and when you're trying to figure out how best to do that. But if you can have something like Uber and you send that from your office, in North Bay, and you're picking up your mother in Barrie, all you have to do is send a car. So some of these types of things in urban environments are easier, harder in rural communities.
Yeah, because for us it's a safety issue, but for them it's freedom.
It's a huge issue.
You're basically telling them, give up the freedom that you have understood for the last 75 years of your life. That's a hard thing to do to somebody.
And the all or nothing approach is something that we try to avoid in the book, right? So mostly you can help with reduction of things, right? Don't drive at night. The roads are really slippery. The freezing rain is going to start. I need to change the tires. And what we see is that women, particularly for driving, self-limit, Men sometimes need a technological or an automotive reason to self-limit, and they'll get there too. So then we know that older drivers who are in a small community, just kind of making their way around at 30 kilometers an hour in a rural village, they're not the risk. They're not the risk.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you look at who the worst drivers are, it's often, young men speeding down highways that are actually the risk. So understanding that we're not just assuming because they're older that they're a bad driver, typically that's not the case. But let's just see if we can do some harm reduction along the way.
Let's talk about guilt along the way. Here's another excerpt from the book. Guilt, you write, is a weird emotion. And as awful as it is to experience, it actually comes from a positive place of morality and right doing. If you feel guilty, it can be a red flag that you should examine a particular situation or action more deeply. Think of it as a bit of an emotional divining rod, telling you that something lying beneath needs exploring. Okay, this sort of gets to the fact that this is all new stuff for a lot of people, right? By the time you're in your, whatever it is, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, dealing with older parents, it's new responsibilities for you. So how do you know if you're doing the right thing?
Well, you don't. But here's what you try to think to yourself. I think of it as Maslow's hierarchy, okay? Is food and shelter and safety, are we getting those things sorted out? And a lot of those issues are actually at the core of it. Is mom eating? Right? Is there a wound that needs care? Because skin breakdown is one of those things that's really important. Am I managing physical pain? Then you kind of work your way up to self-actualization. And what we know is loneliness and social isolation is as bad, we've talked about this before, as smoking 15 cigarettes a day and can take up to 8 years off your life. So these things are all important. What I would offer is you can't be everything to everyone. And what is it that you can self-audit? What are you going to be good at doing? Who else is in your circle that can be good at doing some things? And then where are community-based services? Because it doesn't have to always be you, right? If you're feeling guilty, it probably means you need to assess what's on your plate that you're not good at, what isn't being done, and where can you get some extra help from organizations to assist you.
How do you start that conversation, though, with a parent who says, look, I've taken perfectly good care of myself for 85 years and I don't need you sticking your nose in my business? How do you start that?
That was kind of the premise of the book. And everyone has the right to say, you know what, it's my life, get out. Unless they have a mental capacity issue. And the challenge here is there's about 7 to 10 years between the signs of dementia and a diagnosis of dementia. 7 to 10 years. And some of those things locate themselves around risk and understanding about how bad a decision is. And that's the dance that we all have to do. But part of what I usually like to ask is, how can you come at it in a non-threatening way? So if you want your parents to do powers of attorney, or if you want them to think about a decision they're making, maybe ask their advice instead of you telling them what to do. It usually puts them on their back feet because they're ready for being told that it's their fault or that they have to do something. You could say something like, Mom, it's tax season, or, it's time for me to rethink my wills. And so have you done them? I would love your advice on how to do that.
That's clever.
A good strategy, yeah.
Kind of a entry through the side door as opposed to the front door.
It's their role typically to tell you what to do. Let them. And then it opens up a conversation. So this book is full of those non-confrontational techniques with a few of the nuclear options in there.
Well, I mean, some of these questions are very tricky. I'm just going through the list of the table of contents right now. You've got 27 questions in here. What if my parent is toxic? Like, what if you have an awful relationship with your parent? Do you actually have a legal, moral, ethical responsibility to intervene?
A lot of relationships are toxic. And that's one of the things I wanted to write this book about, because when we get out there, there's this assumption that all families are lovely and loving and have great relationships. What if your father was a horrible human being and abused you, and you're the only child? And I get those questions a lot. And I say, are you legally required? Well, in some jurisdictions, people may be surprised, and Ontario is one of them. We actually have something called filial obligation laws. Put my lawyer hat on there for a minute. And you may actually be financially required to contribute. Now, it's almost never used. It's very, very rarely used. But in circumstances where you may have $10 million and your dad is destitute, you may be looked at to help. Mostly it's about relationships that are sort of social and ethical and moral. And I kind of help you think through that, because in some cases you may actually decide the best thing I can do is walk away because he abused me and I'm worried I'm going to abuse him.
What if it's the other way around? What if dad's got 10 million bucks and dad just got himself a new girlfriend and wants to leave what you thought was coming to you to her? How do you intervene there?
Exactly. And when we think about things, there's either predatory marriages or dad just having a good time. I had a case that I was supporting a family on. The guy was in his 90s, went to Vegas, got married to, kind of the Playboy bunny. It wasn't actually, but nearly so.
Somebody not age appropriate.
Somebody, let's just say there was about a 70-year age difference between the two.
Okay.
And a very different style of life difference. The kids who were in their 60s at that point, had the reaction that you might imagine. And in that particular case, dad said, yeah, you know what? I made my money. My kids have been living off of me forever. They should get a job. I have this great opportunity. I'm going to live my life, and was perfectly mentally capable. And I thought, well, Vegas is made for bad decisions. And in his case, he was living it up. Mostly that's not what happens. Mostly what you see is some type of undue influence or abuse. But you also have to ask yourself, what are your expectations and what are they based on? Because they may not be based on anything that's really going to happen.
Some of these chapters are very, very, well, let's put it this way. They deal with very delicate issues.
Sure.
What if your parent is an alcoholic? What if your parent is starting to show signs of dementia? What if your parent is suddenly incontinent? How do you handle all of that?
Again, I think it's about gathering yourself up and looking at the situation, kind of both what's in front of you. Mom won't go out because she's worried about, fecal incontinence.
Yeah.
Literally, I can't go outside because I'm worried. Okay, there's actually things you can do about that. And you need to know about products, and you need to know about services, and you need to know that Botox, who knew? Botox down there can make a big difference. Unless you spent your life learning these things, how would you know? So understanding both what's behind mom not going out, having the conversation, and her even admitting to you that she's worried she's going to poop her pants, that conversation is important.
Let's finish up on this. I suspect for a lot of the kids in the club sandwich generation, which is a new term that you've laid on us today, this is a conversation starter they just really have tried to put off for as long as possible.
Absolutely.
They don't want to have it.
No way.
So give us some advice. How do you even start to get your head around the notion that you got to have this conversation because it's time?
You got to go to the house. That is the most important thing.
Their turf.
Absolutely.
Not yours.
Not your turf. You need to go to the house and you need to make a cup of tea. You need to open the fridge and see what the state of the fridge is. You need to go downstairs and see if the laundry is there. You need to go have a look at the bathroom and the living room. And you need to not look like you're inspecting it in the way that you do. Because it's important to see how people are actually living. If mom is actually not able to sleep in her bed because she can't get in and out of it anymore, she's not going to tell you that. You need to see it. So you got to lay eyes on it. And then you need to not tell them what to do.
Yeah, diplomacy is really helpful here, right?
You didn't like it when you were 20, and you probably still don't like it now. Ask questions. Hey, what's working for you right now? Ask them about their friends. How's Mrs. So-and-so and Mr. Such and Such? How are they doing right now? They'll probably tell you. That's a nice way in. Of you, oh, they fell. Oh, he can't get out of bed. Oh, he's in a retirement home. Oh, he's got cognitive impairment. Oh, he's got hearing loss. Tell me a bit more about that. Ask about other people so that they settle into relationships and they will express to you worries. People repeat what they're worried about. Listen for things that they're repeating. Reflect back to them about that. So listen to understand, not to answer.
See, this is why we keep having you back on this program, because you've got lots of good advice that we need to hear. And a lot of it is between the pages of this book. Let's talk about aging parents, a real-life guide to solving problems with 27 essential conversations. That's Laura Tamblyn Watts. Laura, as always, great to have you here at TVO.
Great to be here.
His renown began with music, but Tom Wilson didn't stop there. A writer, an artist, and someone who's only recently discovered his Mohawk heritage. We caught up with him at the Cultural Goods Gallery in Toronto.
My name is Thomas George Lazar, Deohahaga, 2 roads. I come from a family of Mohawk chiefs, peacemakers and peacekeepers, warriors and man-eaters, lacrosse magicians, tobacco salesmen, gangsters, shaman, shit disturbers, and survivors. But instead of growing up around these heroes, I grew up on the East Mountain of Hamilton, Ontario, where a whole other tribe of madness prevailed. I'm a living, breathing lie, an embarrassment, a married man's mistake, and a young girl's only chance to hop a fence out of town and escape into freedom. The truth robbed me of my golden heart. I'm 64 years old, and 10 years ago, I found out from a complete stranger that the people who raised me, the loving people that raised me, Bunny and George Wilson, were not actually my parents, and that I was adopted, illegally adopted. Later, I found out driving my cousin Jane Lazar home from one of my grandson's birthday parties. I was driving her home and I said, Janie, I found out a short time ago that mom and dad aren't really my mom and dad. If you can ever tell me anything about this, would you please? And she turned to me and said, Tom, I don't know how to tell you this. I'm sorry, and I hope you forgive me, but I'm your mother. Janie has been in my life my entire life. She's been the image at the corner of the photograph, right against the edge of the frame. Never really in my life, but always close to it. My mother, who I knew as my cousin Jane Lazar, is Mohawk from Ganawage. My father, Louis Bova, was Mohawk from Ganawage. I grew up thinking I was a big, puffy, sweaty Irish guy, when I'm in fact a Mohawk from Ganawage. My belief, of course, is that we're all born artists. The ages of 2, 3, 4, we all sing songs freely, we all dance, we make up stories, we act out characters, and we draw with absolutely no inhibition. And as I started to paint, I started to feel that 3-year-old come out of me. And anybody who works to be an artist is working to get back to that 3 or 4-year-old self that we sadly left behind once we walked through the doors of school. These colors and these images are my ancestors screaming to be heard. It was 15 years ago that my daughter said to me, Dad, you have to stop painting like this. This is cultural appropriation. And being a knucklehead from Hamilton, I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know what that means. She said, it's when you take someone else's culture and use it for your own benefit. And I said, well, this is just what's coming out of me.
I've known Tom for quite a while, I guess since around the late 70s, mostly through music. I was in Hamilton booking bands in bars and part of the music scene in Hamilton at the time. I started moving towards art as Tom's music career evolved, and I think he started painting sometime in the early 90s and painting on his amplifiers and guitars, and I thought that was interesting. Also, he used to visit me at my studio when I lived in Montreal, and so we used to have conversations not only about music but also about art as well. And then I think it was around 2015 when Tom discovered his indigeneity, and he went deep into visual arts, into painting. And so he invited me to his studio, which a small studio on James North in Hamilton, and I visited him there. I thought it was really remarkable what he was doing, and just trying to, let's say, negotiate his way through visual art as a tool to understand his own history, his identity, where he came from, where it might be going to.
It's the desire to get home. Ganawage sits on the south shore of the St. Lawrence Seaway, 20 minutes outside of Montreal, Quebec, just across the Mercier Bridge. The dream that I had since I was 5 or 6 years old, and it was a reoccurring dream that I can't tell you, countless amount of times, it stirred me in my sleep, was I'm standing as a young boy on the side of a river, a body of water. Water's going by, it's nighttime, and I'm looking across at a piece of land that's shadowed in the darkness, deep greens and deep blues. And I don't know how to get across the river. And the man who I knew as my Uncle John, who turns out to be my grandfather, he comes to me and he says, "Get on my back, I'll take you across the river." So I get on John Lazar's back and I start to go across the river, and as we get about halfway across the river, he morphs, transforms, shapeshifts into a giant turtle. And suddenly I'm on the back of this giant turtle, and he starts to lift off the water, almost like he's going to fly, and every time the dream ends right there. I think that that's some shape of blood memory itself. That was me. That was my blood recognizing that I was not home yet. And that dream was showing me the way to get there. As an artist, all you can possibly do is try to bring somebody face to face with your work for a moment, just to be in the moment. This piece represents a culture rising out of an attempted assassination. This vibrancy, this colors, these crows on these warriors' heads are overcoming the rape, murder, and robbery of its culture. I paint for the lost children buried in the ground of abandoned residential schools. I paint for the generations of my family who worked the high steel, building North America into the sky. I paint for my family who filled out their wills at their kitchen tables and went into the woods to fight the Canadian Army in the war we call Oka Crisis in 1991. I paint for my mother, who from the age of 6 attended day residential school. Her teacher told her every day to stand up with the rest of the Mohawk children in her class and take a good look around the room. Take a good look at each other, because you're looking at the last Indians that this world is ever going to see. This painting is called Ganawage, The Long Road Home. It's a self-portrait. The two faces indicate the two worlds that I come from. Ganawage, where my blood is from, and the place that I was robbed and taken to is Hamilton, Ontario. Before I got my Mohawk name, I painted this. My Mohawk name is Deohahaga, which is two roads. It represents me perfectly. This is my favorite painting. I hope it never sells. I hope that it hangs in my living room to the day I die. My mother believed that she was one of the last Indians. On her 80th birthday, she told this story to me, her son, my kids, her grandkids, and my two grandsons, her great-grandchildren. That's 4 generations of Mohawk. So she is not the last Indian. She's a survivor, and through her, I stand as a result of this country's greatest sin. This is titled The Warrior, and like a lot of my paintings, I try to make them colorful and inviting and loving, which is the juxtaposition of the theory of the dead Indian. The dead Indian is a product of colonialism. The dead Indian is the noble warrior, often Lakota. The dead Indian is put in a safe place behind glass with animals that have become extinct. The dead Indian is mocked in cartoons and TV shows and laughed at by fools. So this painting, the warrior, is a warrior of love, a warrior of the ability to be able to do the right thing, and because of his vibrant colors and his good nature, is a warrior against colonialism's dead Indian. I've been writing songs, lyrics, since I was 14 years old. Words are a part of the creative process for me. These words I was actually trying to read before we did this little filming here, and I couldn't make a lot of them out. But in the past, I've opened up my computer, or I've printed out documents that I've been working on for my new book, Blood Memory. And I take those words and I start transcribing them into the paintings. And then I kind of leave that behind, and it turns into a stream of consciousness. Once again, elaborating on what I had written originally. And then I have found myself, because I figured what I just wrote into these paintings is actually better than what I wrote in my computer for the book. So I have to go back to the paintings and transcribe from the paintings back onto my computer or onto the page what I wrote in that moment. I mean, this is our search, right? I mean, the words, the detail in these, this is grasping the moment that we're in. This is the creative moment, you know, we have to savor that.
Starting in the 2000s, there has been a greater awareness and really a renaissance among Indigenous artists in Canada in particular, and I think Tom is part of that voice in this century that is talking, referring to their history and their culture, how it fits into the discourse of today, trying to understand how that was almost eliminated through history, and also trying to imagine what the future of their culture might be based on what's happening now and based on history. It's about going forward, I think, in a lot of ways, and there are many artists, a number of them that I've worked with, but right across Canada, also in film, in literature, in theater, and visual arts as well. So this is a really exciting time, I think, for Indigenous art in Canada, and Tom is part of that movement.
The eyes originally were to be coming from, you know, not this planet, that's for sure. They were universal understanding, universally understood. People try to get their own interpretation for the eyes. I always have this line running down them so that people assume that it's a highway, it's a road, you know, which is not wrong. It's for interpretation, but I find that it's a good basis for everywhere else I'm going to go. I even put human eyes in my crows. The only eyes that I don't put, the only subjects I don't put human eyes in are the fish that I draw. So it's an important place for me to start. And I don't sketch things out. I don't approach this canvas with a pencil and delicately, you know, sketch out where everything is going to be. It drives my wife crazy. She says, "How do you do this? Why don't you use a pencil and sketch out your paintings?" I go with actual oil and I start painting. And I do the outlines. And a great place to start is with the eyes, for me. And after that, I paint with my hands. So all this is all painted in with my hands, and then the detail is with oil pen. Let me put some sugar where they put salt. the mistakes you made aren't all your fault. Let me seal your scars and ease your mind. Turn your deep blue heart into the loving kind. How does it feel to be lying by yourself? You're out or you deal. Tell me, how does it feel? Faded Memories of Home is an installation of 9 school desks. The installation is to represent the loss of identity, the loss of color, the loss of language, the loss of love, and the sense of family. The cruel joke made by the churches and the Canadian government against Indigenous children who were robbed from their homes and forced into these schools. The 9 desks all have photographs of families burned into the tops, including my great-grandfather, Chief Peter Lazar. And as you move back in the desks, the images start to disappear, start to fade, representing the loss of all those ingredients that make us full human beings. And then there's 2 nuns, 8-foot nuns, that are standing at the front of the classroom. And a film that I put together from National Film Board, clips, pictures of Disneyland, pictures of cartoons representing the dead Indian that I talked about earlier. And this exhibit has been shown at McMaster University. It's been shown at Stratford Festival for a season. And most recently at Queen's University and on Tyndonega, Mohawk Territory. I hope this piece continues to travel, because I'm learning that the impact that it has on people, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, is mighty, and it leaves us wanting to continue a conversation. And if you really want to know what this gets down to, why I stand on stage and read from my books and sing the songs I do, and why I write the books that I do, and why I create this art, it's to hopefully create something that resonates with people enough that they start their own conversation, that they don't have to be told by the government or the churches or corporations to have the conversation, that they don't have to be told by news outlets to have the conversation, that art creates a conversation that needs to happen in this country.
Dancer turned choreographer Esie Mensah didn't think Afrofuturism applied to her. Questioning Shadeism, however, helped change that. Have a look.
We want to hire her, but her skin complexion, she's too dark. I happened to be all-black female cast of dancers, and I was the darkest one out of all of them. The other ones were probably medium complected. The artist said that I was too dark and didn't want to hire me. Being that one black girl, if you're standing with a group of people, you will stand out. I have to be so amazing that nobody could ever say that my complexion is going to be an issue. It's a choice. The same way that we can have different shapes of bodies on stage, we can have different genders of bodies. All of that is a choice. We can dismantle the thing. We are actively making choices to uphold it. So when we say, well, this is what the client wants, or this is what it wants, but did you introduce the client a different option? So then I navigated that for the next 2 to 3 years and was having immense difficulty. And if it wasn't for my siblings, I don't know if I would have gone through it because I wasn't really making any money. But I wanted to take pride again in who I was and what made me different from the rest. And so I leaned into my Ghanaian identity, into my African identity, and started just experimenting. Doing my TED Talk was my opportunity to actually heal a lot of what that experience was because I didn't realize that I had it. I went into the depths of myself to pull that talk out. It was the first time that I've ever done a public speaking of that magnitude. And I only applied because I didn't think I was gonna get it. And then I did.
Is there any way to see me without seeing my shade? Shadeism is about the default preferences that we are born into. And I question how we can break this generational cycle if we don't question those same defaults.
I started thinking about the fact that I did not want to wait for somebody to call me to say that I was good enough. And so the planting seeds of me becoming a choreographer and planting seeds for me to now start to take my identity as an African in the industry because it's so heavily saturated with Caribbean folks, which is not a bad thing, but I wanted to take pride again in who I was and what made me different from the rest.
When I met Esie Mensah, I knew her as the trailblazer of Afrofusion in our city and country. Everyone was talking about how she was fusing traditional African movement with contemporary dance movements.
Growing up in Hamilton, I often like to tell people that I was dancing from when I was in my mother's womb. Every Sunday, the AWA Canadian Cultural Organization of Ontario, ECHO is the short form for it, we would come together as community well before I was born. I'm the last child of 5 kids. And it gave us a chance to continue to move in this rhythm as community in this beautiful way, to learn the dances, to hear the songs, to almost feel for them a sense of home, but also more so to offer their children that sense of home. And so I grew up in this rhythm from, my earliest memories were being in the background trying to dance with all of the elders. It was beautiful. It was beautiful to be able to find rhythm with everybody, to perform and drum with my elders, with folks that we're still connected to in this community. All of them used to dance before me, so it was very much so an intergenerational cycle of those that came and those that left. And as newcomers came into Canada, they would find out about the community, especially if you were AWA, would be a part of the community. I was so grateful that that was my first real introduction into movement, was through my culture. If my grandmother was here, I feel like there would just be so much pride in her eyes. As one of the only ones that's committed to bringing a sense of culture, an honor to the culture, an honor to the ancestors and what came before me, in my own way through arts, I think there's so much pride. Again, it's taken me a lot of time to just receive it and to receive the gratitude, the fact that I'm listening. I think that's the part that excites them, is the fact that, yay, someone's listening. Somebody's helping on earth in the present. So that way we can help to just shift what's around us. I think the first time I heard about Afrofuturism was definitely because of Quentin. But I feel like it became really popular during Black Panther. If I were to explain Afrofuturism to my younger self, I would say that it's intentional storytelling. There's so many different ideas and versions of what Afrofuturism is, but I think at its core, it's really about how are you inspired by the past to inform your present to plant seeds for the future. It was the first time that we got a chance to see and know and feel what we think Afrofuturism is. And I think that because there's so many different ideas, and when you Google search it, you can get everything from technology to a strong literature, academic stream, to visual arts. But I think that, again, when we think about it through like a Pan-African lens, I think that Afrofuturism is the ability to bring people together and create a new future. I think it's exciting. But what was interesting when I first heard about Afrofuturism, I didn't actually think that it applied to me. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. It wasn't until being more connected, especially to the Afrofuturistic community in Toronto, that I all of a sudden started to find my own pathways and realize there's actually a lot of similarities. And I actually see myself as an Afrofuturistic artist. As a movement artist, I do find a way into Afrofuturism, and we are all using an ancestral resilience and ancestral knowledge that we are all, as artists, bringing forward.
Opening the doors for so many choreographers and doing such big projects and productions, and she really pushes what a dancer and movement director could be in terms of how she was telling her stories, especially as it relates to her Afrofuturistic productions.
I think for me, especially in the realm of ancestors, as that journey has been something that I have been on for, I would say now, about 10 years. I think that there's a deep sense of bringing forth my culture and heritage as somebody that was raised both Ghanaian and Togolese in West Africa. My elders, my grandparents, I've only had the chance of meeting one of my grandparents. Only one of them was alive by the time I went back to Ghana for the first time. Different people that I had not known, but are walking with me as I continue to move through this journey, especially as I'm the only artist in my family. And on top of that, I feel like they've added to the charge of what my purpose is. 5, 6, 7, and ki ga ga ki ga 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 ki ki ya ba 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 ki ki ga. Growing up in a Ghanaian household, being an artist wasn't necessarily the thing. I'm sure every immigrant household would say you have to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be an architect. You could be anything but an artist. And I push up against that because who else is better to showcase your heritage, taking an essence of the past, and through the movement by taking in both traditional and contemporary African movement and fusing it with the other styles of dances that I've also been trained in. I would sit with my VHS in my parents' house downstairs as I would replay Janet Jackson videos. That was always my favorite. Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, Britney Spears. Just replay the movement. Brazilian samba, house, hip hop, the bits of jazz that I've done. There's a plethora of movement and also influence within Caribbean movement, dance hall specifically, and soca. So all of those things, I find the synergy. But more than anything, I find the through line between the movement. So go option 1, right into option 2. I know so many people like to say dance is universal. And I remember being at a talk a number of years ago and a gentleman said dance isn't universal, movement is universal. And that really opened up my eyes and I was like, oh wait, yeah, you're right. I stand here in this building, Canada's National Ballet School. As I teach these students, I try to get them to understand the through line That the same 3 steps that you might do in ballet, done with a different intention, all of a sudden we can drop into Afrofusion. Done with a different intention, we can drop into a house movement, or we can drop into a samba movement. The spiritual aspect was the charge that made me want to create what I'm creating now. When I started training, I started feeling the presence of my ancestors. I had been dancing commercially. I've had a career for about 5 years up until this point. How come I've never felt this when I've danced? I was feeling something deeply spiritual. I was able to take all of the bits of the work that have existed around me and found a place for it. My ancestors asked me to go into this, and they're prompting me to ask these deep questions, and it could cause pain, and I could see it and I could feel it. And so now for me, having gone through that, when I enter into a space, I want to know that I can ask you these questions. Not to dismantle you, but to let you know that in asking you these questions, they also will feed into the work that we're doing. Gi-ga, gi-ga, ga. Ooh. And here for your last one. Yeah? Yeah. When I work with dancers, I want them to know that it is okay to invest more than just your body into your art, and that you can invest your spirit. So as an artist, as a spiritual artist, I come into spaces vulnerable to give people a chance to hopefully let go of their guards, to meet me where I am at. I encourage folks to meet me where they are at. I think for me, at this state in my career, I want people to see themselves in the work that I am doing. So whether it's working in theater or you hear me speaking, that you can feel yourself in the journey that I've gone through, and that hopefully inspires you in some way. And I feel like that is part of the legacy that I want to leave.
Tomorrow on the agenda.
You're not a real gardener until you've killed lots of plants. If we can treat it as a learning experience, approach it with a bit of curiosity. Okay, why did this happen?
It's not just plants, it's about employment, it's about well-being, it's about skills development.
That's tomorrow on the agenda.